Thanks, Paul, and thank you everybody else for the kind introduction and making these facilities available to us today and inviting me. I went down to the bar last night in my hotel to work on my speech, on my index cards and pads, and the guys, and drinking a beer, and the guys on either side of me were drinking martinis and working on their iPads, and I was wondering, you know, I'm from ICANN, what's wrong with this picture? And then I realized my kids had gummed up my iPads with all their apps that it probably wouldn't have done me much good anyway. So I was getting ready for this, and I was combing my daughter's hair. Rachel's 12 years old, and she had a million tangles in her hair, and I won't get into how they got there, but she was pretty ticked off to have to sit through it, and I was pretty ticked off to have to do it. And I was trying to, thank you, and I was trying to take her mind off of that, and I said, you know, Rachel, I'm not supposed to be doing this. I'm supposed to be getting ready for this talk I'm doing. Do you have any ideas? Do you have any ideas about what I can do for my talk? And she goes, well, Dad, it's good to start with a joke. I said, that's a good idea. Do you have any? And she goes, not about top-level domains, none of those. So that turned out to be the joke. So that's a good one. So new top-level domains, the introduction of names to the right of the dot is going to be the biggest change to the domain name system that we've seen, you know, in at least a dozen years and maybe ever. In the middle of January, ICANN is planning to start to open an application window so that entities can apply for a new top-level domain. What are the hallmarks of the process? What do we consider? When I talk about we, I'm talking about ICANN staff sitting in Marina del Rey in Brussels, but I'm talking about the ICANN community, which is very broad, made up of tens of thousands of active participants that contribute to internet policymaking. And what do they consider to be most important? Well, first, this process must be launched in the public interest and serve the public interest. That it must be launched in a way that ensures a safe, stable, secure domain name system. And after that, we think this introduction is going to encourage innovation, choice for users, increased competition, significant benefits for the internet community and all those that use the internet. Our idea of what a top-level domain is and what it does will change. It won't be the identifier anymore for the registry operator, so that we associate .com and .net with VeriSign or .info with affiliates, but it'll become part of the name or the product. Registry operators will be expert in the niches they're involved in. They'll bring their suppliers closer to their market. They'll serve their customers better. They'll be embedded in their communities. So the labels, the TLD labels, will actually help be part of the name. They'll identify the community. There'll be a geographic name. Very importantly, there'll be an IDN, an internationalized domain name. Think about how irrelevant somebody typing in their keyboard in Chinese characters has to put a .com on the end of their domain name. How useful is that? With the introduction of IDNs, people in China will be able to type an entire URL in Chinese. People in Saudi Arabia will be able to type their complete domain name in Arabic, and that'll give meaning to the whole domain name. So what sort of participation do we think we're going to see in new top-level domains? Estimates are all over the map. ICANN did an estimate once of 500, but we always said it was, you know, 500 plus or minus 400. With a downturn in the economy, estimates went down. Most recently, with the long time it's taken to launch the process, estimates have gone up. So now we hear numbers over 500. We hear double 500. What do we know? We know that there's websites published that indicate who is published that they're going to apply for a new top-level domain. So one website, for example, has published links to 143 applications. And what types are they? Well, they're .brand TLDs. Just a few of those announced. Many are playing it close to the vest. But for example, we know Canon is going to apply for .canon. And there are a couple of others. UNESCO is going to apply for .UNESCO. There's many community or ethnic TLDs that are going to be applied for. Geographic names probably makes the biggest bundle. Over a third of those who have advertised have said they're going to represent different geographies, like New York City. 15% say they're going to be internationalized domain names, enabling communication in different languages and scripts. So we see a broad brush of entities that are going to apply for new top-level domains. And we really, you know, when I was promoting this process and seeking to get its approval, we didn't always say we didn't know what was going to happen, but we really don't know what's going to happen. It's a very exciting time for the internet, a time for growth across the board, and opportunities that are undescribed or unrealized yet. So how did we get here? How did we build this applicant guidebook? The applicant guidebook is this guide for those who want to apply for a new TLD. It's been developed over the last couple of years through a process that's, I think, one of the most transparent, collaborative processes that's been undertaken for something of this purpose. I think only ICANN, only the ICANN model would have really been able to accomplish this, to get governments, internet stakeholders, business interests, trademark interests, non-commercial interests, community interests, all talking and collaborating together on different solutions about how to best approach this problem and develop a process for introducing new TLDs. And it's been a very iterative process. So ICANN publishes a version of the guidebook. There was significant public comment, also often in the form of wailing and gnashing of teeth, both in oral public forums and in written public forums. That caused an iteration of the guidebook and so on until the noise sort of damped out. It's sort of like a damped harmonic oscillator. But the results of that public comment resulted in significant changes to this process. The original guidebook was about 40,000 words long, guidebook number 1. I think, what are we at, guidebook number 7 now or something like that? I lost count. So we've gone from 40,000 words to 80,000 words. And actually of those 80,000 words, only 20,000 are the original words. And a lot of those are really small, like and of. So not only did considerable community work and policy development go into the first version of the guidebook, but then a really active, vibrant, iterative, collaborative process took place in order to end at a guidebook, at an instruction manual for how to apply for a new GTLD that really reflects the inputs of a broad internet community. So it's really a salute to the ICANN model and how it can facilitate a multi-stakeholder process and discussion. And I don't think that would have occurred if internet governance was provided through a UN model or a governmental model or any of the other models that have been discussed. There's a ton of invention that went into the development of new TLDs, so we expect a ton of invention to happen now that entities can apply for them. But you know, just the ICANN is a place famous for acronyms. If you come to ICANN or read through the ICANN website, you need to go straight to the glossary to help you figure some of this stuff out. And if adding to that acronym dictionary is any measure of success or invention, then the new GTLD process has done it. It's invented processes called the URS, the PTDRP, the EDPRP, the RDRP, and the IO. It convened cross-community working groups that worked very hard to solve difficult solutions, solutions to provide trademark protections, solutions that put into place measures to mitigate potential malicious conduct going forward and really make it a safer environment. You know, some of those groups are called the IRT, the STI, the IDNWG, the VIWG, the JAZ, the JIG, the ZFA, the HSTLV, and the even more arcanely named the Rec 6 working group. So this group has been working together. These groups have been working together, collaborating on solutions and getting to consensus. I've given dozens of these talks, and this is the first one I've given since the ICANN process for new GTLDs is approved. So this is kind of a handoff for me, and it's kind of interesting. The next tasks I see are really up to you, and to take advantage of the new environment and be stewards of the new environment. So, you know, the ball's in your court and the shoe's on the other foot. And, bottom rail's on top, and the grass is definitely greener on the other side. So now our roles are going to separate for a while. We've been working together collaboratively. ICANN's taken input, gone home, crafted revisions to the guidebook, put them out for public comment. And necessarily our paths are going to diverge. ICANN staff members are going home getting ready to receive applications, to process applications in a timely, predictable way, and then operate in the new environment to provide services to new registries, new registrars, new internet users. So we're getting ready at that. Once applications are received, you'll see ICANN going very quiet. I think it's important that you know, literally and appearance-wise, we maintain a complete air of independence. Even though the applications are being evaluated by independent evaluators, you'll see a separation from ICANN and not a lot of public discussion about the new GTLD process. And while we're doing that, what are you going to do? Well, for those of you that have taken an interest in developing these developments in the domain name system, you're hard at work now, or you're going to be hard at work, developing an understanding of what the opportunities and risks are associated with this project and what they mean for your firms or your clients. I think it's important that you're still, even of those of you who are newcomers, are still on the forefront. You're still early thinkers in this process, and you'll have a leadership role in it. And besides working for the benefit of your clients, as leaders, I think you also have a duty to work towards the ongoing secure, stable, and safe operation of the DNS and a vibrant domain name system. Remember, there's about 270 of these TLDs now, GTLDs and CCTLDs. At the end of the day, when they're, you know, in the next few years, there's going to be 2 or 3 times that. Still a very small number, and each TLD will be an important part of the internet infrastructure. And so it's important, if you're going to sign up to be a member of this new environment, that you understand that there's duties to clients, there's duties to perform to contracts, and there's duties as a member of the ICANN community to work in the multi-stakeholder model, preserve that, contribute to new policy making, and work towards ensuring an ongoing safe and stable DNS. With these few numbers of, with these few numbers of TLDs, you know, operating on the edge can discredit the system and affect future decisions having to do with new TLDs. So you are the stewards of the next big thing. So let me tell you a few of the hallmarks about this new GTLD process. First of all, the evaluation process itself, it's a set of answering 50 questions, right? It's intended to be a roadmap and not a roadblock toward getting a new GTLD. All the questions are already published, so it's like going to college and getting the questions before you have to take the test. So it should be fairly straightforward in that regard. And there's a lot of tutors out there that are willing to help. So there's really no reason why you can't pass the test. I think I passed most of my tests in college that way. But the application really, then when you think about it, is really a set of promises or commitments that the applicant's going to make. It's the application is meant to engender an understanding for how to operate a registry. Anyone can hire a consultant, get the application figured out, and ICANN, in writing the application, understood this. So our goal in writing the application was to hope that the applicant carefully read the application, understood all the answers to the questions, and therefore understood what it takes to undertake the operation of a TLD, both financially and technically, to operate in a safe, secure manner. And so it's meant to engender, the application's meant to engender that understanding. So again, the application is meant to help people pass and get approved as a new GTLD. The process is meant to encourage innovation, increased choice, competition, the creation of new services. If you read the registry agreement, it's very much abbreviated. The registry agreement is the agreement between ICANN and the new registry. It's very abbreviated compared to past agreements. It's meant to be broad. It's meant to allow a large number of models, whether it's a for-profit model or a community-based representation or a TLD meant to protect and promote your brand. It wasn't really, it's not really for ICANN to dictate what categories of TLDs there are or predict innovation, just to provide a fertile field for allowing that. So besides allowing a broad brush of applications and a fairly unrestricted environment, the new GTLD process is also intended to provide a safe environment. There's trademark protections embedded in the system, rights protection mechanisms. Also, measures have been undertaken to mitigate malicious conduct so that malicious conduct does not multiply with the number of new GTLDs. Things like background checks and easier access to data. Also, another contributing factor to a safer environment, I think, will be the architecture of the system. You know, the concentration of names in .com now leads to malicious conduct because those names are very valuable. And I think that the new architecture with the names spread out more will actually serve to reduce malicious conduct. So there's benefits and risks. There's benefits available to you if you apply for a new GTLD. There's benefits if you choose not to, but choose to take advantage of the new environment. The same things as risks. So as partners in this startup, one of your duties is to assess the opportunities and risks for your clients, advise them whether to participate in new GTLDs or how to get ready for them when they're launched. So today's panel is going to talk about, there's going to be 3 panels to talk about essentially 3 types of TLDs. The first one is a .brand panel. So as I mentioned before, Canon's going to apply for a TLD. We know Deloitte's going to apply for a TLD. What's a brand TLD? Well, it's not, it's not described in the guidebook. It's not a category. And so there's a wide variety of possible brands. Trademark holders can take advantage of opportunities in new GTLD to promote their brand, serve customers better, provide company infrastructure perhaps, or otherwise promote their business model. And how can they do that? Well, there's a few ways. One is getting a .brand TLD like .Deloitte will help mitigate malicious conduct. If you build up brand awareness around your .brand TLD, you will build up customer knowledge that is the safe place to go. So instead of IBM.com and IBMcomputers.com and misspellings of Verizon, consumers will develop an understanding. If you want to go to the genuine IBM or Verizon or Deloitte or Canon site, it could be .Canon. An executive from IBM in an interview in the Australian Financial Times said, "Boy, if I could get .IBM, I could solve a lot of my trademark protection issues." So that's one way. Another way is there are trademark protections for brand holders at the top and second levels. So trademark holders that choose not to participate in TLDs have a way of protecting their name if others seek to obtain that TLD at the top level and abuse it. There's also a set of protections at the second level. So if you own a brand TLD, you can control the registration practices and allow who's going to register in it or not. Or even for other TLDs, there's remedies available to you, new remedies to keep others from abusing your name. Finally, what's interesting about a brand TLD is the form of retirement. So generally, if a TLD goes out of business, we transfer that data to another entity and let them run it. Well, that doesn't make sense for a brand TLD. So in a brand TLD, if you have .Deloitte and your databases or your registrations or all your employees, you might be able to choose to retire that TLD and not transfer it. So there's a safety net in there for brand TLDs. So we're going to talk about brand TLDs. There's going to be a panel on public interest TLDs. Again, the process and content of the guidebook is very flexible. So it's really up to the public interest deemed by the registry what public interest they want to serve. You know, as far as ICANN goes, the public interests identified are, again, to operate in a safe, stable manner, to comply with technical requirements that make it safe, such as implementation of DNSSEC and IPv6 and those technical requirements, to escrow data in order to protect registrants. So that's important. If you look online, you'll see certain public interest or community-based TLDs, such as .echo, .gay, .green, .peace. There's many of them. And then one of the most popular types of TLD, and the third type we'll talk about today, along with generic TLDs, are city TLDs. Like I said, almost a third of the TLD applications published so far are geographic. And you'll see online, you know, some of the great cities in the world, you know, great capitals of the world: Paris, Tokyo, Rome, Vegas, are all applying for new GTLDs. So what will be new at the end of the day? Well, there's going to be new choices, innovation and competition, we think. You'll see different business models. You'll see community TLDs, brand TLDs, city TLDs. You'll see IDNs. To make it safer, you'll see trademark protections, malicious conduct mitigation measures, a different environment. So I think you're part of the leadership here, and you can choose to be out in front of this, to be part of this major change in the internet. That these changes happen so rarely, and to operate and interact with a way that fosters the goal of ICANN and the internet. And so I just want to close by saying ICANN remains here. We want to be as helpful as possible to help you with your clients, inform you about where published information is, and point you in the right direction, and provide you help in any way. So I congratulate you on having this conference here, and I thank you very much for having me. Thanks.